So, little Jack felt a calling to be a priest, but needless to say, he doesn't become one. What he does do is leave university, return back home, has a job and a girlfriend and a life, just in time to get drafted for the Vietnam War. And he ends up training as a military policeman and serving a tour in Vietnam. Now, as a military policeman, he was spared the worst of the frontline fighting, but he also saw sides of the war that other soldiers didn't necessarily see as well. It certainly wasn't an easy job, and for him, having grown up in a very close, happy family in many respects, this was quite a shock for him. And what I want to share with you now is a passage of one of the more unpleasant duties that he had to do as a military policeman in Vietnam. In this particular case, it's not taxing work. He's security for a general who is giving out Purple Hearts to soldiers who were wounded in the assault on Hamburger Hill. The ceremony is definitely not the Oscars. The venue is a giant Quonset hut, metal sheds like the ones we made at Mayville Metal Works. Inside is row upon row of hospital beds, housing soldiers in various states of consciousness and lucidity. The one-star general adjusts his collar as his staff brief him on the upcoming event. "How many soldiers getting medals?" I asked the duty sergeant. "Let's see." He checks his clipboard, scanning each name with his pen. 27. "Does everyone without a limb qualify?" The sergeant stares at me, then barks, "No, soldier, there are 3 here with all their limbs." My first instinct is to laugh at the insanity, but I stifle it and feel sick at my reaction. On cue, I flank the general and his entourage and match them step for step into the hut, then take my position near the side door. As my eyes adjust to the darkness, the audience takes shape in gruesome detail. IV bags drip silently into contorted bodies, lying wilted in their crisp green uniforms. Heads bob against IV poles. Occasionally, a soldier moans or cries out until a nurse adjusts the IV bag or quickly rolls up the patient's sleeve and empties a needle. The smell of sweat, blood, and oozing wounds burns my nose and boosts bile to my throat. I close my eyes, swallow against the stench, and march forward. One by one, a name is called, a speech about the bravery and selflessness of the soldier is issued, and a Purple Heart is pinned to a chest. One wounded soldier sits up and grasps the general's hand. "My uncle got the Purple Heart in World War II, he rasps, "and he lost both of his legs, too." The general nods and offers a plastic smile before handing the still grinning soldier off to a nurse. Another soldier screams in agony as if the metal pierced his skin. The officers proceed, unfazed, smiles intact. Another scream rakes across the metal shed, but this time the general's voice rises with it. Hand on my sidearm, I glide past the rows of gilded gimps to do my duty and protect the distressed brass. A frenzied soldier, eyes wide with fright, grapples with the hapless staffer trying to administer the honor. The patient's arm shoots out and pulls me to the bed before I can react. "Sorry." A nurse glances over at me as she struggles to free my sleeve from the iron grip of its dazed owner. I look down at the gnarled fingers, white from the exertion, slowly traveling up the scrawny arm to the wild eyes staring back at me. My knees start to buckle. My breakfast churns into the back of my throat. For a moment I want to snap the arm and run for the door, caring not whether I am court-martialed or shot in the back, just needing this moment to end. This moment where I recognize the contorted face staring up at me in complete, utter desperation. A face now chained to a body with no legs and eyes with no hint of the person I once knew. Clearing my throat, I put a hand over the bent fingers clutching my sleeve. "It's okay," I declare to the nurse and the startled entourage. "I know this man. We were in basic training together." I squeeze the hand, hoping to get the eyes to focus, raising my voice just enough to preserve the general spotlight while making myself heard over the platitudes. "His name is Ronnie Manny." The nurse nods sadly as she fills a needle, holding it aloft to tap the bubbles to the surface. Manny's grip relaxes as the morphine takes hold. "What happened?" I ask quietly, not wanting to exclude him from the conversation, but not expecting an answer. His platoon was deployed on the hill. The nurse checks his IV connection and smooths the blanket over his bandaged stumps. He was the only one to survive. Our eyes lock before she moves on to check his pulse, neither of us speaking what we both see. If you call this survival. "We're behind schedule," the general growls. "Hold him." I step forward. "You're okay, Manny," I whisper, holding his gaze, willing him to see the need for things to be as they are. "You'll be home soon." Only then do I see the source of the clatter, his rosary, what was once my rosary, protruding from his pocket, its worn metal links scraping against the frame of his bed. Manny rears up, nose to nose, my arm about to snap in his fevered grip. The Purple Heart trembles wildly as it approaches Manny's chest. But Manny does nothing but stare at me, bit by bit, realizing he will survive this moment, and the next, and the next. Slowly his grip loosens and his deflated body sinks back on its jumble of blankets. "It's just the medication," the nurse murmurs as I back away, hand over my holster. She shakes her head, flashing me another somber look before hurrying to the bedside of the next soldier crying in pain, rubbing his arm as the metal is affixed. Manny lies, comatose, metal gleaming in the dirty sunlight, eyes wide but unseeing as drool slowly oozes from his slack mouth, the cross of the rosary dangling aimlessly from his pocket. His smile, his jokes, his optimism, drained and vaporized. My stomach churns again, and for the first time since landing in country, I leave my post, racing through the clutching glare of the sun for the latrine where I purge my breakfast, my lunch, even, I think, the 3 beer from last night. But heave as I do, I cannot purge the image of those soldiers with shiny purple hearts on their broken bodies, Manny's pain-stricken eyes begging me for mercy burned in my brain like a neon screen, flashing purple on bloody red. I reach for my canteen, drink, spit, and wipe my mouth with the back of my hand. The entourage emerges, blinking into the light, the staffer checking his clipboard and wiping dust from the general's single star. Time to start the jeep for the escort home.